Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Mel Sporer. We warmly welcome the family of Private Ronald Allen Mills Watt, whose story will be told shortly. We're honoured to acknowledge Rear Admiral Pamela Miller, Command Surgeon, United States Indo-Pacific Command, accompanied by Rear Admiral Sarah Sharkey, Surgeon General, Australian Defence Force, and Commander, Joint Health Command, and the accompanying delegation. We're also honoured to acknowledge Minister Mick Gentleman, ACT Minister for Police and Emergency Services, and Georgina Whelan, Commissioner of the ACT Emergency Services Agency, accompanied by senior officers from the ACT Rural Fire Service, ACT State Emergency Service, ACT Fire and Rescue, and ACT Ambulance Services. The ACT Emergency Services Agencies comprise over 1,500 full-time and volunteer personnel. Their duties include providing emergency management services to the ACT and surrounding South East New South Wales region. We sincerely thank them for all their efforts in ensuring the safety of our community. We warmly welcome the delegation representing the United States Army Command and General Staff College, accompanied by representatives of the Australian Defence College. And as always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Capital Party, turn! Capital Party, present, arms.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. Enjoy from strange and let us sing. Advance Australia fair.
Capital Party, shoulder, arms. Capital Party, order, arms.
If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Ronald Allen Mills Watt. Ronald Watt was born on the 13th of July 1893 in Harris Park, New South Wales. Affectionately known as Scotty, he was one of 6 children born to clerk George Watt and his wife Ada. Ronald received his education at Parramatta Superior School, where he was a keen student and sportsman, playing cricket, football and skating. On completion of his schooling, Ronald began working as a clerk in several different offices around Sydney. During this time, he played on the Parramatta football team and was secretary of the local cricket club. As a young adult, Ronald developed appendicitis and underwent an operation which forced him to reconsider his career. After recovering, he joined the Navy for a short period before moving to New Zealand. He began working as a teacher at a small public school in Naumanui, north of Wellington. After about a year, Ronald returned to Australia, where he learned of the outbreak of war with Germany. After spending Christmas of 1914 with his family, Ronald Watt enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 7th of January 1915. Describing it to his mother as the happiest day of his life, Watt was assigned to reinforcements of the 3rd Battalion. He undertook a short period of training before embarking for active service, departing from Sydney on the 11th of February 1915, sailing on board the troop ship Siang Chun. After spending several weeks at sea, Private Watt arrived in Egypt, where he continued training alongside other recruits. It was not long, however, until he and his comrades were mobilised for service on Gallipoli. The 3rd Battalion went ashore at Anzac Cove as part of the 2nd and 3rd waves on the 25th of April 1915. The men landed under extremely heavy fire from the enemy, who were well entrenched on the high ground. Fighting their way up to the enemy's position, the battalion successfully occupied the Turkish trenches, holding out under ongoing shelling and counter-attacks. Though Australian units established themselves along the Anzac beachhead, they were still under regular attack from the Turks, who were seeking to drive them from the peninsula. Watt and his comrades suffered under the conditions of trench life. Private Don Lowe, who was also serving on Gallipoli, described it in a letter home, saying, "There is no rest, camp or safety once you land. The safest place is in the trenches firing. Once you move out, it's taking a risk. One may be hiding in a dugout well behind the scene of action and thinking to yourself, what a home you have struck, when suddenly, without any warning, a burst of shrapnel comes over your head. The most noticeable thing a chap learns is the mass of machine guns they turn on us. When a charge is in progress, they often keep their guns silent until we are approaching the trench, when they open out with a hail of lead. The trenches we use are deep, and in many cases one can walk upright and not be seen. Once they spot your head over the parapet though, it's all up, for they watch the mark like a cat does a mouse, and we do the same. In many places, the trenches are only a few paces apart, and the fighting is monotonous, hard, and unhealthy. Some of our men have been at it for weeks, among a plague of flies, vermin, and the sickly smell of the dead, who at times cannot be recovered for days while under heavy fire. Having endured these conditions for several weeks, Watts's unit again came under attack on the 19th of May 1915. Just after midnight, Turkish troops charged Australian positions in successive waves. Pushing forward to the firing line, Watt and his comrades were drawn into heavy fire at close range until daylight allowed them to drive the enemy back. As the Turks began to retreat, Australian troops came out of the trenches only to be met by machine gun and artillery fire. They were cut down by the heavy fire, which cost the 3rd Battalion almost 100 casualties in one night. Among the dead was Private Ronald Watt. The local newspaper reported Watt's death. Let us pray to God to bind up the aching heart of a good mother who surrendered her son to go forward to fight for us and to defend the country to which he proved himself so loyal and had made such a sacrifice to uphold. May his noble example inspire us all to a greater devotion to God and our country. Private Ronald Watt was 21 years old. His name is listed on the honour roll to my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Ronald Allen Mills Watt, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
Capital Party, shoulder, arms.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Capital Party, reserve, arms. Capital Party, shoulder, arms.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Capital Party, in word, home. Capital
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.